Iain MacFadyen in The Piper's Tune.
Today it's the turn for strathspeys and reels, or to put them in historical order, reels and strathspeys, because reels came first. A reel is a tune for playing for dancing, and particularly for the kind of dance that goes round in a reel. So we find that the rhythm of the tune is adjusted for that particular kind of movement. Reels have been played on the pipes for a very long time because the very first book published about bagpipes, written in 1760, gives several examples of reels, including the famous John McKechnie's reel. A strathspey is really a kind of a reel, and originally it was called a strathspey reel. These tunes were supposed to have been invented somewhere up in the northeast of Scotland by a famous family of fiddlers who were called Brown. Now, there are two main differences between a strathspey and a reel. The first one is that the strathspey is played a good deal slower. The second is that a strathspey has what other musicians call the Scotch snap. And that consists of two notes played together, one short, one long, but the accent is on the first one, the short one. And so you get things like he, harrow, he, and this harrow, that's the Scotch snap. The pipe of the day is one expert on this kind of music, the youngest of the MacFadyen pipers, Iain. Iain,
Thanks, Seumas.
after you.
Thank you.
You'll find it a bit warmer in here than it was up on the
Yes,
the
it's
top.
quite cold up there, Seumas, isn't it?
It'll have an effect on your pipes too, I imagine.
Alter the tonism a bit.
Yes. Iain, do you particularly enjoy playing strathspeys and reels?
I do very much indeed, Seumas.
Yeah.
It's one of my favourite types of pipe music, it's strathspey and reel playing.
I think, you know, although you play everything very well, this is one of the things I always think you're rather outstanding at. You seem to get a great lift into it. But then your wife, Eleanor's a dancer, and Karen, your daughter's a dancer. You must get a lot of practice playing for them, do you?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about this, Seumas. I've been playing for Highland dancers and playing at dances for 20, 30 years.
Goodness.
And I really find it's a tremendous help in your tempo and rhythm for strathspey and reel playing.
I don't know if you ever had any embarrassing moments with dancers, but when I was a youngster and playing for them, you know, you used to get some hard looks from some of them.
Oh, dancers are the world's worst to play for because you can't please them all. And if you have a platform with 4 dancers, they all want you to play a different timing.
Ah, yes.
So the answer to that is just ignore them completely and play your own timing, and then they'll dance to you.
Now, I wonder, how did pipers really feel about this business of playing for not playing for dancing, but playing reels and strathspeys? You know, we know that the army had a real demand for march playing, so the pipers had to start to play marches. Do you think the army had some influence on people playing for dancing, for strathspeys?
Oh, they certainly had. When I was in the army in the Cameron Highlanders, I used to have to be up at 6:30 in the morning to play for the officers.
Really?
Who were dancing, who were learning to dance strathspeys and reels. And we did this 6:30 in the morning. And we did this after the Valley was played in the officers' mess.
And is that a long tradition? I mean, in the Highland regiments, did the officers always have to dance?
That's when they do the dancing, is in the morning.
In the morning?
Yes.
Oh, I wouldn't think they would be at their best at that time.
But that's when they actually do it.
So it may well be that the army was influencing the playing of strathspeys and reels then?
I think so. I think you'll find that a lot of army chaps can dance as well.
Do you think that pipers would feel that they were sort of selling the past, they were demeaning themselves when they started playing reels in the army? You know, you imagine a great Peever player and he's told to play the High Road to Gaelic because they want to march along the road. Do you think if they had to play for reels and strathspeys, they felt that was a
well, I don't know,
step back?
Seumas, whether to say this or not, but I don't know whether maybe the players that you're referring to in these days would play a reel.
I see.
You know?
But they must sometime have.
Yes, but I think reels were used mainly for dancing.
Yeah.
They certainly wouldn't be played at the time of the great masters of the past.
It might well be.
Anyway.
Well, of course, you see, there are tunes which are named after them and supposed to be composed by some of them. Although I think the composition of strathspeys and reels is something which has lagged way behind march composition and piping.
Yes, yes, I think that.
I mean, at a big competition, you'll find pipers putting in loads and loads of marches, but a very restricted number of strathspeys and reels.
But that's because there's not so many, as you say, there's not so many competition strathspeys that you can put in.
Yes.
There's lots of strathspeys being composed, but not competition standard strathspeys.
Yeah, but I don't think many people, I mean, how many good strathspeys have been composed in the last 20 years?
Well, how many good 2/4 marches have been composed in the last 20 years? There hasn't been a great deal.
But the excuse for the 2/4 marches would be that there are hundreds of good 2/4 marches, but there are only about 50 good strathspeys for competition, I think.
I think it all boils down to the fact that we have a limited scale. You have 9 notes, so it's very difficult to get something
new.
New, completely new.
But Donald MacLeod produced one with
Susan
Susan
MacLeod, but then that's only one of the last.
Good one, I would think. Yeah.
Very good.
Now, of course, once pipers started to have this business of playing in competition, I think whatever anybody learns to play in the pipe, somebody will eventually run a competition for it.
I think you can get tunes that are they're basically competition tunes. I mean, a dancer wouldn't like to dance to them.
Would you like to play one as a demonstration to us, you know?
Well,
strathspey of that nature.
This will probably come under a bit of criticism, but I think a strathspey that would be difficult to dance to would be a strathspey like Athelcummer's.
Changed their tempo over the years.
Yes, I think very much so. I, as I said to you earlier, been playing for dancers 20, 30 years ago. I played a lot for Katrina Buchanan, who was a very good dancer, and Betty Jessamine, and you know, and Bobby Watson, and these dancers I played at Braemar Games, and they danced much faster than they're dancing today. There's
Why is
no
that?
question. I think there's so much time being spent on technique of dancers now that they just don't have the elevation that they had in these days. I certainly find it very difficult now to play a strathspey to a dancer the way I used to.
There is a tune I would love you to play for me, which I think is most suitable for dancing, and that's A Rose Among the Heather.
The Heather.
You have a setting of it, which I
I've
don't
got
know
a
where
nice
you got
setting of
it.
that, Seumas, I got from Lachie Livingston
Did
many
you?
years ago, and I like it. It's a nice setting.
Would you like to play that and maybe a reel along with it?
Well, I'll play that tune for you, and I'll play for a reel, I'll play Dancing Feet.
Great. And these are two tunes which I think would be very suitable for people to dance to.
Yes, if you couldn't dance to this, then you're not a dancer.
Well done, Iain. That was really great. You could do with a wet now, I'm sure. That reel, you know, I think is most interesting one because it was composed
Thank you, Seumas.
by accident. The
Was it? I
Dancing
didn't know
Feet.
that.
Well, G.S. McLennan, Donald told me this. Cheers.
Cheers. Land you back.
G.S. McLennan was playing for dancers in the Northern Meeting Ceilidh, after the Ceilidh. You know, the real professional dancers were dancing, and he was playing, and he went off the tune. He was playing Reel of Tulloch or something, and he lost the place. And he just kept going and going until he kept them going. It didn't matter for them so long as it was
he could remember afterwards what
he went
had
away
done.
up and wrote it all down
Yes.
immediately.
He was
and
a
that
genius.
dancing.
wasn't he?
Wow. There's not many like him.
Real.
You find, you know, playing strathspey and reel like this, you can concentrate, but I'm sure playing in competitions at games, you must get a lot of distractions, you know. It must be hard to concentrate, people firing guns and
Well,
throwing
Seumas, I remember
weights.
playing at Glenfinnan games, must be some 7 or 8 years ago. And my son was only about, well, he would be 2 or 3 at the time. And I think yourself and Jimmy McGregor were judging. And I was on the platform just ready to start in the competition. And I looked over, and here I saw him in the burn in about 4 feet of water, you know. And I gave him a shout, you know, and at the same time I just shouted, you know, watch yourself, and just carried on playing the sustained reel. And I won the sustained reel, you know. And luckily Iain was all right.
Well, that's just like the MacFadyen's clan doing that, because I remember your brother John telling me about, he just started the march at Portree when he saw Cameron, who was just a small boy at that time, climbing over the guardrail, and there was a drop of about 100, 200 feet to the beach below. And I said to John, what on earth did you do? And he said, well, I just kept on playing. What could I do?
The first prize was more important.
The prize is more important than the child.
Yeah.
Well, now, Iain, I think we're getting near the end of this part of our discussion. And first of all, I'd like to thank you very much for coming and playing so well and illustrating these things so nicely for us. But I thought maybe we should ask you to go away up into the gantries again, you know, and play something outside. Maybe more modern competition tunes, if that would suit you.
Well, I'll go and I'll play for you a very fine strathspey composed by Peter MacLeod, which is called Dora MacLeod, and the excellent reel composed by G.S. McLennan, Mrs. McPherson of Inverayn.
Well, Iain,
I'll just finish this before I go.
please finish it before you go. Now, as Iain goes up to play this last strathspey and reel, let me just tell you that the reel, Mrs. McPherson of Inverayn, is undoubtedly the most popular of the light music composed for the bagpipe. There was a competition held a few years ago to find out what people thought was the best tune among light music, and Mrs. Macpherson of Inverness got 2/3 of the votes. So undoubtedly this is the great tune, composed by G.S. MacLennan, who also composed Dancing Feet. And so, with Iain playing Dora MacLeod and Mrs. Macpherson of Inverness, that is his contribution to the Piper's tune.